10 spine-chilling encounters exposed from the haunted depths of Appalachia's cursed woods. The town of Willow Creek was shrouded in an eerie stillness, its past lingering like a heavy mist. The locals whispered tales of 10 spine-chilling encounters with the malevolent spirits that haunted the cursed woods at its edge. Families once vanished into the thick trees, retracing footsteps that were never returned. Every child in town knew to stay away, yet here was Sarah, a single mother desperate for a fresh start, moving into an old house that creaked with the weight of forgotten history. Mia, her young daughter, twirled around in their dilapidated living room, her laughter cutting through the oppressive silence. "Look, Mommy, I'm dancing with my friend," she exclaimed. Sarah felt a chill skitter down her spine. There was no one with Mia, yet the way her eyes sparkled sent a wave of unease shivering through the as twilight descended, the charming facade of their new life cracked. Moonlight barely penetrated the dense fog that gathered around their backyard, thick and cloying. Whispers of old curses wove through the branches like a thread of dread, tickling the back of Sarah's neck. She tried to shake it off, reminding herself it was just a story, a myth to scare children. But as the shadows deepened, she caught glimpses of movement just beyond the tree line, fleeting, distorted, lurking. "Mommy, my friend says the woods are bad," Mia chimed, her small face creased with concern. Sarah brushed it aside, a child's imagination fueled by horror stories, or so she thought. But the threads of her own frantic past tangled with the stories she had heard from well-meaning neighbors, their smiles oddly strained. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days turned to weeks, the nights grew darker. Disturbing noises crept beneath the walls, scratching, shuffling, and a low, mournful wail that seemed to beckon Mia. Shadows hovered at the corners of her vision, twisting and swirling. Each morning, Sarah's heart raced with anxiety. Her once bubbly daughter now seemed to live half in darkness, entranced by a dark presence she claimed was her protector. Then came the day Sarah ventured to the local sheriff, desperation clinging to her like fog. He raised an eyebrow but listened. Once he spoke, however, it was with a laugh barely masking disdain. "Folklore, ma'am. That's all it is," he said dismissively. But the knowing look in his eyes told an unsettling truth. Lies and fear swirled around the town, like a tangible force. Sarah felt the walls closing in. As she and Mia retreated from the sheriff's office, shadows clawed at their backs, urging them toward the woods. Hoping to uncover the reality behind the twisted lore, Sarah made a fateful decision. She would go into the woods with Mia. As they stepped through the gnarled trees, the air thickened, the tension palpable. The whispers grew louder, wrapping around Sarah's heart with icy fingers. Branches twisted like skeletal hands, clutching at her as if warning her to turn back. But curiosity, desperation, and the primal need for survival pulled them deeper into the heart of darkness. What awaited them grew more sinister by the second, the very air laced with foreboding secrets just waiting to be unearthed. Shadows slithered and perceptions warped. Just as Sarah began to piece together the horrifying puzzle tying Mia's imaginary friend to the cursed woods, the unsettling truth about her neighbors emerged. Who could she trust? The woods whispered promises of doom, and for Sarah, the choice before her was stark: fight for her daughter or succumb to the very darkness from which she sought to escape. The ground beneath Sarah's feet felt alive, as if the roots themselves were awakening, shifting in response to her fear. Each step seemed to resonate, echoing through the stillness around them. Mia skipped ahead, blissfully unaware, her laughter now hauntingly discordant amidst the sound of snapping twigs. "Mommy, my friend says we have to go this way," Mia called back, her voice high and clear like a bell, but the chill that followed made Sarah's heart stutter. We have to hurry. Panic engulfed Sarah. Mia, wait. She shouted, but the brush of Mia's frayed sleeve slipped through her fingers. The child pressed deeper into the gloom, as if the trees themselves beckoned her closer. The cold wind carried with it a whisper, chilling Sarah to the bone, a familiar voice, urging her on. A voice that shouldn't be there. Stop! Sarah screamed, lunging toward her daughter. Just as she seized Mia's small hand, a force struck the side of her head. The impact sent her tumbling to the ground, disoriented. Mommy! Mia cried, fear cracking her light-hearted tone. The image of her daughter, once radiant and innocent, morphed. Her face became eerily serious, her smile replaced by a stone-cold expression. You don't understand. We need to play. Sarah scrambled to her feet, wiping dirt from her jeans. Play? Mia, this isn't a game. The shadows around them seemed to flicker and twist, morphing into shapes she could not comprehend. The trees loomed taller, their branches curling inward like cavity teeth ready to devour them whole. Mia, listen to me. We need to leave. The urgency in her voice pierced the heavy air, yet Mia remained transfixed. But he's waiting for us. The voice, the same one that brushed against her skin moments before, swelled in the darkness like a murmurous tide. Come join the dance, join us, it echoed, each word sending chills crawling down Sarah's spine. The weight of that sound made her knees tremble. No! She shouted defiantly, clutching Mia's hand tighter. We don't dance with whatever that is. We have to go home. But Mia shook her head, sudden stubbornness igniting her small frame. You're wrong, Mommy, he knows everything. He said the woods want us. Something in Sarah's gut twisted sharply at the word want. The trees seemed to lean closer, whispers curling around her mind, drowning her logic in a cyclone of fear. Despite the suffocating dread, something urged her to understand. Why does he want us? Sarah asked, hoping to keep her daughter tethered to reality, praying it would break the spell being cast over her. Mia's eyes flashed with a strange clarity. Because we belong here, Mommy, home is right here. The word hit like a hammer, shattering Sarah's will. Tears pricked her eyes as she realized the gravity of the wood's allure tightening around her daughter. The shadowy depths surged forward, a malevolent force ready to engulf them whole. Mia! Come on! She hoisted her daughter into her arms, heavy and unwilling, and sprinted back through the trees. The branches whipped at them like grasping hands. Thousands of whispers crescendoed into desperate screams, clawing at Sarah's ears, urging her to return, to let go. The horror peaked as a surge of darkness pushed against her back, weighty and oppressive. With every step, the fear that had once felt remote became palpable, a choking gas that tightened around her throat. Just when she thought she could escape, the forest shuddered in rage. A figure materialized among the trees, a tall, towering shape that seemed to absorb the light. It reached out with long, twisted limbs, its face a twisted mockery of human form. Why resist? It croaked, the whisper weaving into her soul an invitation, a command. Mia stirred in Sarah's arms, her eyes wide and now gleaming with a strange, unsettling excitement. Mommy, we can't leave him. As the air thickened around them, cold and suffocating, a new truth unraveled in Sarah's mind. She had to choose to protect her daughter or succumb to the ominous pull of the woods. With her heart racing, she prepared to fight against the dark, almost ready to confront the greater evil swarming around them, but the ground trembled beneath her. What if she couldn't save Mia? The ethereal figure loomed closer, its eyes burning into her soul. You are all part of this now. Embrace it. Just then, a blinding light exploded from within the woods, a beacon amidst the darkness, illuminating the horrific shadows. For a moment, everything froze. What is that? Mia breathed, her gaze drawn toward the brightness. One desperate thought crystallized in Sarah's mind. She had to make it to that light, but the woods weren't going to let them go so easily. With fear racing through her veins, Sarah clenched Mia tighter and plunged forward. Would the light save them or consume them both? As they barreled toward the unknown, the shrieks of unseen spirits echoed behind them. Would they find salvation or would they be lost forever in the cursed embrace of the woods? The blinding light expanded, its brilliance cutting through the suffocating darkness like a knife. It was a stark contrast to the dense shadows that loomed around them, and for a heartbeat, a glimmer of hope sparked in Sarah's chest. "Hold on, Mia!" she shouted, weaving through the gnarled trees as they groaned in protest. With every stride, the cold embraced her tighter, every whisper in the wind growing louder, a cacophony of tempting voices urging them to turn back. The ground beneath her feet felt treacherous, roots writhing like serpents, trying to drag her down. Sarah pushed against the fear clawing at her heart, desperation fueling her race toward the light. She could feel Mia squirming in her grip, the child torn between longing for the woods and her mother. "Mia! Stay close!" Sarah's voice echoed off the towering trunks, panic ricocheting within her. The harsh reality pressed down, they were not alone, and whatever lurked in the shadows was patient, calculating. Suddenly, Mia's voice broke through the noise, a sing-song chant that twisted the air around them. "He calls to me, Mommy. He wants us to play. Mia, no. Focus on me." Sarah's grip tightened around her child, but the little girl's weight felt heavier, almost as if she was being pulled back by invisible hands. Sarah turned, heart pounding, to see the shadows coalesce into figures just beyond the light's reach, twisted, ghostly beings with hollow eyes, watching with sinister glee. "Join us," they sang in unison, their voices dripping with honeyed malice. The way they swayed, an eerie dance, seemed to beckon, and with every pulse of movement, the trees echoed back, a low vibration that rattled in Sarah's bones. "No, no!" Sarah stumbled backward, the tug of the woods fighting against her will. Just beyond the luminous glow, shadows contorted, forming outstretched arms and pleading faces longing for something, someone to join their eternal torment. "Mama, I want to go," Mia whispered, her voice small and fragile. A wave of dread crashed over Sarah. She squeezed her eyes shut, imagining the spark of home, familiar warmth washing over her. "Mia, think of home. Think of our family." But the shadows responded to her thoughts, warping around them as if they could sense her struggling resolve. They whispered secrets in half-formed syllables, coaxing Sarah with intimate fears. "Your husband, he has forgotten you. Your neighbors, they don't even care you belong here. Stop. You're lying." Sarah screamed, but the doubts grew, gnawing at her insides. She pushed past them, swimming against the tide. "We will not be part of this." With renewed fervor, she clutched Mia tighter and leaped into the blinding light. The moment they crossed into its embrace, a warmth enveloped them, washing away the iciness of the darkness behind. The voices shrieked, a collective wail of fury, but Sarah pressed onward, desperate to hold on to the fleeting glimmer of hope. Yet as they stumbled out into a clearing, the sight that greeted them turned her blood cold. The forest opened up to show a glade filled with twisted trees and eerily beautiful flowers that pulsed with an unnatural glow. In the center stood an altar of blackened stone, draped with thick vines. "I told you to play," the voice returned, lingering in the air like smoke. It was stronger here, resonating through the very ground they stood on. "Mia, look!" Sarah pointed, her heart racing. The flowers blossomed and writhed, revealing gnarled faces. Each one regarded them with sad, pleading eyes. They were trapped, forever longing for release. They need help. Mia's excitement faded, replaced by confusion and fear. "Mommy?" But Sarah felt a shudder rip through the ground, a warning. "We can't linger. We need to get out." As they turned, the ground trembled again, and the shadows darkened in the clearing, coiling in closer. "You can't leave, you're part of this now." A bone-chilling realization washed over Sarah. The forest was alive, and it wanted them to be part of its eternal sorrow. "No. We will not be yours. Just as they sprinted back toward the forest's edge, the trees shivered violently, branches snapping like bone, attempting to ensnare them in a final grip. "Don't let go, Mia!" Sarah shouted, adrenaline pumping harder than ever. The light flickered behind them, the shadows closing in, but in that terrifying moment, she sensed a presence lurking within the light waiting. The very forest pulsed with a dark heartbeat, a sinister invitation they could not refuse, and reality twisted. Would they reach the safety of the light, or would they become yet another shadow destined to wander these haunted woods for eternity? "Mommy, help!" Mia gasped, her small hands slipping in the chaos, and Sarah could only watch in horror as the darkness surged forward, ready to claim them. What would they find on the other side of the perilous threshold? The ground roared beneath Sarah's feet, primal and unforgiving. The shadows surged like a tidal wave, fueled by an insatiable hunger for their souls. Heart racing, she pushed forward, desperation pounding in her chest louder than the frantic whispers surrounding them. "Mia, keep up!" she yelled, feeling the weight of her child pulling against her, of the darkness demanding what was not theirs to take. Just ahead, the flickering light grew dimmer, its warmth bleeding away into the cold dread wrapping around them. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, but she couldn't. Not now. Not when they were so close to freedom. The shadows laughed a chilling mockery. Sarcastic whispers echoed, haunting her senses. "You can't escape. You belong to us now, join us." They wove their way into her thoughts, each taunt twisting her memories, her fears, and the desperation coiling like a serpent in her gut. "Mama! I don't want to play anymore!" Mia cried out, her tiny voice trembling, pulling Sarah back to the present. The trees loomed like guarding giants, branches clawing at the air, talons ready to snatch them if they faltered even for a moment. Shadows writhed underfoot, roots twisting together, creating an obstacle course of malice. Each step felt like wading through thick mud, as if the forest itself was intent on dragging them back into its arms. "Stay with me, Mia!" Sarah gasped, driven by fear, and yet a part of her felt drawn into the allure of the shadows. The trees seemed to whisper promises of love, of belonging, of liberation from the pain waiting back in reality. "Not real. They're not real!" she shouted, shaking her head violently. But doubt began to creep in. What if they are right? A little voice inside her whispered. What if no one is waiting for you? What if this is home? They stumbled into a small thicket. Mia's small fingers slipped from Sarah's grasp just for a moment, and in that moment, everything surged with dark energy. The air thickened, the shadows thrumming with life. "Mia!" Sarah reached out, that split-second hesitation stretching like a taut string. She yanked her daughter back just as a dark tendril lashed out, barely grazing the back of Mia's shirt. It fizzed away into the surrounding darkness, its shriek echoing as if hurt. "Don't let go." With determination, she clutched Mia's hand tighter, but Mia's wild eyes began to glaze, transfixed by the pulsing glow of the flowers. They reached out, glowing under a moon that dared not show its face, petals undulating like they had breath. This wasn't just an altar, it was a beacon of hope in a cursed realm. "Mia!" Sarah hunkered down, shaking her daughter. "Look at me. Focus on me." Slowly, Mia's eyes returned to Sarah, and she blinked, shaking off the enchantment. The girl's breath came in gasps, eyes wide with terror. "Mommy, I don't like it here." Just then, the ground shook violently, and the forest howled. The whispers crescendoed, desperation turning to rage. "You cannot escape with a furious will." Sarah sprinted toward the fading light. The clearing widened, but the shadows pressed ever closer, teeth bared in twisted smiles, waiting for one misstep. "I will not let you take her!" Sarah screamed, the sound bursting forth from a primal core deep within her. Suddenly, the altar blasted with a blinding light, and the flowers shrieked, struggling against their bounded roots. They flared and twisted in protest. What is happening?" Mia cried. Run! Sarah shouted, pulling Mia with all her might as the shadows shrieked, less confident now, legs faltering under their weight. But even as they ran, the light shifted, and something monstrous began to emerge, gargantuan and grotesque, its form a horrifying amalgamation of the very shadows they fled. The air vibrated with its guttural voice. You can't escape. You will be part of us. Panic surged through Sarah, but she kept going, dodging the dark tendrils snapping hungrily at their heels. Then, just as they neared the shimmering line of light, a ground tremor shot through her feet. The very forest cried out, pouring all its rage into this singular moment. Join us. The voice rang out, swallowing her resolve whole. Sarah gasped, the weight of despair crashing down around them. They were close but still so far from salvation. Then she felt it a tug at her heart, a sensation like pulling a thread from a fabric. What if the light was just as treacherous as the darkness behind them? What now? Sarah's voice cracked, desperation intertwining with fear. Would they find safety, or would the forest claim them as its own, forever lost within its cursed embrace? As they reached the threshold, shadows swarmed, a final desperate attempt to pull them back. The world around her tilted like a crude joke, and Sarah faced the light one last time. Would stepping through mean salvation or surrender? Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, echoing in the oppressive silence that swallowed the space around them. The light shimmered ahead, almost taunting, calling to her with an irresistible glow, yet sinister tendrils snatched at her legs, dragging her back, threatening to engulf her whole. Mia, she gasped, forcing herself to focus on her daughter, whose small frame quivered with fear. We have to go. Now. But the shadows, darker and thicker than before, twisted around them like a living cloak. Stay, they hissed, seductive whispers threading through the air. Here, you'll find peace, Mama. I'm scared. Tears pooled in Mia's doe-like eyes. I know, sweetie, but I want to let them take you. You have to trust me. The words tumbled from Sarah's lips, desperation fueling her voice. With a sudden surge of strength, she yanked Mia deeper into her grasp and lunged toward the light. The ground shook violently beneath them, a snarl erupting from the forest as if it was awakening from some long slumber. But one step near the radiant border and all went dark, a flash of emptiness that swallowed both her senses and hope. Sharp rocks cut into her palms as she landed hard, Mia's body crumpled beside her. Mia! Panic coursed through her as she scrambled to her knees. Get up! Get up! Mia groaned, her little face twisted in pain, the light now receding. The distant whispers grew avaricious, hungry, gnashing like teeth. You can't run from what's in you, a whisper curled through the thickening darkness, wrapping around Sarah's heart like a vice. You are ours. Gritting her teeth, Sarah rose, pulling Mia up with all the strength she could muster. We have to go, now. Stumbling forward, the lush undergrowth knotted their feet, roots entwined like hands seeking to hold them back. But Sarah tore free, dragging Mia along, the frigid air clawing at their lungs. The garden of light had dimmed, now glowing an eerie green, twisting into unfamiliar shapes. Flowers once vibrant and inviting became jagged and thorny, petals closing like sharp mouths snapping shut. Mama, it hurts. Mia squeaked. Just hold on. They surged forward, but the shadows roiled, extending their long fingers, speaking in a language that pricked at Sarah's mind, memories, fears, regrets. Nothing was sacred. Remember the pain you fled? It cannot be escaped. I'm not weak. Sarah roared. But doubt seeped in like a poison. What if they were right? With every flash of light came a memory loss, despair, and abandonment clawing at her sanity. In her mind's eye, she saw herself the young woman once full of laughter and dreams. That had slipped away long before Mia was even born. Mama, please. Mia was crying now, small sobs cracking through the wildness closing in. Shadows curled eagerly around her, feasting on her fear. Where are you, little girl? A voice called, mocking her innocence. "Shut up." Sarah snarled, rage igniting her spirit. "Leave her alone." At the brink of another thicket, she halted, hitting a barricade of gnashing tendrils that reached out like claws. The shadows roared, furious now, their fury palpable. "You belong to us. Forever." "Mia!" Sarah shouted, the weight of despair heavy in her throat. "We have to Mama." Mia yanked away from Sarah, her little feet glued to the ground, wide eyes fixated on a tethering glow curling from the depths of the darkness. The yearning in her face shocked Sarah. "No, no, no." Just as Sarah lunged, Mia stepped back, caught in the allure emanating from the void. The shadows danced, swirling around her, a black whirlpool beckoning. "Join us, sweet child, you will find peace, Mia." Sarah screamed, eyes wide with horror, as she staggered forward but was seized by a gripping force, shadows tangling around her, pulling. She squirmed to break free, but they tightened their grasp. In that moment of chaos, Sarah felt a wave of warmth, a heat from the fading light. She inhaled sharply. Was it the warmth of salvation or the last warmth she would ever know? "Fight it, Mia. Come back to me." But all Sarah could see was the glow enveloping her daughter's frame, a beautiful and terrifying spiral. Would the bond of mother and child triumph over the darkness? Or would they be lost to the shadows, forever entwined with its cursed embrace? As Sarah pushed against the darkness, she felt the growing pull of something ancient, something awakening deep inside her. What had she hidden away? What power lay dormant, waiting for a moment just like this to rise? The forest echoed with its haunting melody, shadows watching, ready to claim their prize. Would Sarah unlock the strength to save her daughter, or would their final moments be surrendered to the insatiable darkness? The darkness was thick, a suffocating weight pressing down on Sarah as she struggled against the shadows clutching at her ankles. "No!" The word ripped from her throat as she plunged deeper into the void, her heart racing. All that mattered now was Mia. "Mama!" Mia's tiny voice sliced through the fog, sharp and terrified. It pulled Sarah from her thoughts, grounding her in the bleak reality of their plight. "Help me." With every step, the ground shuddered like a living organism, vibrating beneath her soles, an angry reaction to her defiance. "I'm coming, Mia. Hold on to me." The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of seductive promises weaving around her. "You're tired," they lulled. "Let go, we will soothe your pain." The shadows didn't just whisper, they caressed her skin, cool and clammy. "No." She grit her teeth and yanked on the writhing masses, forcing herself to move towards Mia's diminishing silhouette. The gleam of light around her daughter was flickering, the hope they had felt now wavering. Mia was still mesmerized, her small frame caught in that sweet glow. "Mama, it feels nice here." "Nice? No, it's a trap. It's lying to you, honey. Fight it." Sarah shouted, the conviction ringing in her voice, but doubt gnawed at her heart. What if it was better for Mia? What if the darkness truly offered ease from the hurt? The shadows hissed in chorus, reshaping themselves into twisted faces, each mocking her anguish with glee. "You can't protect her forever. We can give her what you cannot." Their words stung, reeling Sarah deeper into despair. But for Mia's sake, she pressed forward, refusing to surrender. She reached out a trembling hand. "Mia, please. Come to me." Suddenly, the ground convulsed violently, sending her sprawling. An unseen force jerked at Mia, pulling her away from Sarah's grasp, a dark wave closing over her. "No!" Sarah screamed, her voice raw and desperate. Clawing her way forward, panic morphed into determination. She could feel something awakening within her, a flicker of power fueled by her love for Mia. "Let her go!" Sarah shouted, laced with newfound strength, and she felt the shadows recoil slightly, a whisper of fear brushing against her consciousness. For a moment, the shadows hesitated. Mama. Mia's voice was faint, pleading. I'm scared. I'm right here. Sarah cried, her heart hammering in her chest. If she could just reach her. With each step, the darkness screamed and simmered, swirling wildly around her. The glow from Mia's eyes faded, and desperation clawed at Sarah. Fight it, sweet girl. Remember the stories, the laughter. Come back to me. Suddenly, the glow flared, pulsing with intensity, illuminating the twisted branches and gnarled roots. Shadows shrieked, recoiling from the brilliant light. Sarah felt the surge of energy course through her legs, igniting her will to fight. Yes. That's it, Mia. Fight it. Focus on the love. But then came a piercing sound, a cacophony of wails, a symphony of despair that reverberated through the night. The forest itself seemed to join in, a chorus of the lost. The shadows flailed, consumed by fury. You cannot change what you are. Mama. No. Sarah roared as the shadows lunged at her, a black mass trying to blanket her soul. But in that moment, she felt it, an eruption of warmth, a power she didn't know she possessed. With a fierce cry, Sarah raised her hands. Hear me. I choose love. The air thickened, and reality twisted. The colors of the forest shifted, edges blurring in a cascade of brightness. Tendrils of light shot out, intermingling with the encroaching darkness. A struggle ensued, not just for their lives, but their very beings. Give in, Sarah. It's easier here. The shadows hissed, clawing at her resolve. But her heart pulsed with determination, dewy memories flooding back, Mia's laughter, summer picnics, her first steps. Suddenly, the void trembled, shadows shuddering as her inner light expanded, and Mia's figure shimmered within the glow. I'll fight, Mama. I won't let go. An eruption of blinding energy surged between them, battling against the encroaching dark. Sarah gasped at the raw power surging from deep inside, a torrent of fierce, radiant love. But even as the shadows faltered, they retaliated, hissing as they retaliated, thrumming with a collective rage. You belong to us, not today. Sarah declared adamantly, but their grip tightened again, shadows snarling, digging deeper. What happens now? Was her last thought as the shadows lunged, darkness burrowing into every crevice of her being. In a moment of pure chaos, the world tilted. If they lost all memories, all love would be consumed. As everything began to shift, Sarah barely held Mia's gaze. Would they emerge from the darkness? Or would the shadows finally claim what they craved? With a deafening howl, the night swirled into oblivion as her heart thundered, the final choice hanging heavy in the air. The scream echoed, yet the darkness swallowed it whole, leaving nothing but a muted silence broken only by the rustling of branches, like fingers scratching on an unseen surface. Sarah's heart raced in perfect tempo with the erratic thrumming of her thoughts. Everything felt unreal, as though her body were levitating somewhere between this nightmarish plane and the blight of consciousness. Where was Mia? Panic surged through Sarah's veins as fear painted everything in exaggerated contours. The shadows loomed bolder now, stretching like grotesque figures dancing at the edge of perception. What do you want from us? She shouted, voice teetering between anger and despair, her eyes darting to any movement in the murk. Their response was almost gleeful, a low, hissing whisper that lingered, curling around her like a noose. We want what you cherish most. As thick as the blackness was, a shimmering veil of light flickered just beyond, tantalizing her senses. Mia! She screamed into the void, desperation wrenching her throat. There was no response, only that piercing wail from before, now coming from all directions as if the forest itself were mourning. The ground trembled beneath her, seismic waves of sorrow radiating from the shadows. Where are you, baby? She whispered, breath trembling that in the haze of her frenzied searching, something glowed far in the distance, a promise, a beacon amidst the chaos. Without thinking, Sarah dashed forward, fueled by the remnants of her hope. The light pulsated, its rhythm matching her escalating heartbeat. Each step drew her closer yet felt agonizingly far, as though the very air conspired to keep her within the fold of despair. The wails intensified, scraping against her consciousness. Surrender to us. The shadows twisted, forming shapes of what could only be her worst fears. Mia, looking lost and forlorn among them. Stop! Sarah cried, clenching her fists tight enough to draw blood from her palms. You won't take her. Not now, not ever. Suddenly, the pulsating light surged, spilling warmth through her chest. Memories flooded her mind, Mia's laughter, her tiny hands clasped around a crayon as she drew colorful shapes. They were enough to empower Sarah, to remind her what they were fighting for. Another wave of despair struck her, and Sarah felt herself teetering on that precipice of hopelessness. You'll never take us. She screamed as she pulled from that inner wellspring of love. She burst into motion, rushing towards the luminous figure of her daughter. The shadows writhed angrily, encircling her ankles and pulling with a force that chilled her bones. You cannot save her. They promised, voices merging into a symphony of chaos. But Sarah's fury burned hotter. Step aside. With every ounce of her strength, she pushed against the darkness, hands glowing with that unyielding light. It radiated warmth, tackling the cold embrace of despair head-on, forcing the shadows to recoil. Mama! Mia's voice cut through, brighter than any warning bell. Sarah turned, locking eyes with the small silhouette of her child, now encased in flickering gold. Don't let go. The shadowy figures shrieked in outrage as their grip weakened, scattering like ashes before the wind. You'll regret this. We'll find you. Their voices twisted in the air, merging with the unsettling rustle of leaves, retreating but vowing to return, but Sarah couldn't dwell on that. Hold on. She yelled, diving into the thread of light binding them together. A final burst surged from her heart, chaotic but brilliant. The world around them exploded into blinding radiance, illuminating the forest, giving life to the twisted dark shapes that lurked in the corners. But as the euphoria washed over her, it brought with it a dread that clung to the very tips of her fingers. This wasn't the end. It was a brief respite. As the brightness began to dim, Sarah felt a pull, not of the shadows but from within. The forest shuddered ominously, the ground quaking once more. Hold on to me, Mia. But even as hope surged, a chilling thought punctured her heart. What if the darkness they had fought off was just the beginning? Where are we? Mia breathed out, eyes wide as the illuminating mist began to thin. Then, they heard it, a soft, sinister laughter echoing through the trees, accompanied by a dreadful whisper. You can't escape forever. The forest shifted, branches twisting and twining like skeletal fingers reaching for them. Time seemed to stop as Sarah hugged Mia tighter, dread creeping up her spine. What lurked beyond the fading light? Could they truly find safety, or was the true terror yet to come? The forest was not finished with them yet. Before Sarah could catch her breath, the ground rolled like a wave, undulating beneath her feet, and the whispering laughter deepened, wrapping around her like fog. You think you've won? The voice punctured the air, sharp and taunting, its roots burrowing ever deeper into her mind. Sarah pulled Mia close, her skin prickling with dread. We need to go now. But the way back felt like treachery, the forest alive with malice, branches bending closer, almost touching her hair like icy fingers. Suddenly, the once welcoming glow that had enveloped them began to flicker, a dying star in an all-consuming void. Shadows reformed, swirling with renewed anger. They whispered promises of despair, of fear, urging Sarah to let go, to simply give in. Join us. Your joy is only a memory now. No. Sarah shook her head fiercely, raw emotion bubbling to the surface. We are stronger than you. She took a step forward, only to feel her feet sinking into the earth as if it had transformed into quicksand. Panic surged again, coiling like an anaconda around her chest. Mia, hold on. Mia looked up, eyes wide and fearful, but still she clung to her mother. Just then, a luminous creature erupted from the ground beside them, a swirling mass of light, pulsating with a heartbeat reminiscent of their earlier beacon. With each undulation it stretched, illuminating the darkness, pushing the shadows back momentarily. "What is that?" Mia whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know, but we can use it." Sarah's mind raced, piecing together the fragments of hope clinging to her like the mist. "We have to run for it. Follow the light." As they moved, the shadows hissed, recoiling from the light's warmth. "You'll pay for your defiance." Their voices were terrible, a deadly chorus wrapped in malice. They stumbled forward as the ground continued to shake beneath them. The creature beckoned, but the rest of the darkness writhed angrily, pulling toward them like a tidal wave, intent on sweeping them back into its embrace of fear and despair. Just as they reached the glowing form, a shadow lunged from behind, coiling around Mia's ankle with a grip like icy steel. "Mama!" she cried out, panic seeping into her tone. "No!" Sarah whipped around, each beat of her heart punctuated by terror. "Let her go." She felt the rage clawing at her throat, but there was no time for doubt. Without thinking, she lunged, pushing against the shadow with her light, pouring all of her love and desperation into the effort. What had once been a single glimmer grew volatile, releasing a blinding explosion of color. The darkness screamed, a dissonant symphony of anguish swelling in an anguished crescendo. In that brilliant moment, Sarah could feel Mia's grip in her hand, warm and real, intertwining with her own fierce determination. They were more than shadows, they were more than remnants of fear. "Hold tight!" Sarah shouted, as they were swept into the searing light together, but just as suddenly as it began, the brilliance peaked and collapsed, leaving them shrouded in darkness again, this time, a heavy, smothering cloak that vibrated with malice. The shadows purred around them, low and promising. "You are lost now. Forever." Terror clawed at Sarah's insides as she frantically searched for a way out of this nightmare. "Where are we?" she whispered, her heart freezing at the thought she couldn't shield Mia from the horror anymore. "Not yet." A chilling voice licked her ear, sending a shiver rippling through her spine. "You will truly see the dark." And just like that, the suffocating darkness began to dissolve, revealing an eerie clearing lit by an unsettling moon. The trees stood grotesquely twisted here, gnarled roots reaching out like hands begging for release, but this was not an escape. This was an entry into something far worse. "Stay close," Sarah whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. The faint giggles returned, echoing through the trees. But it was the sight beyond the clearing that froze her blood. Figures, hundreds of them, standing silently, faces twisted in agony. "Ready to begin?" the shadows whispered, as the ground beneath them rippled ominously. Sarah's mind raced, frantic thoughts colliding together in chaos. What did they want? And could she protect Mia from whatever awaited them? The weight of dread settled heavy around her shoulders as she understood running would no longer be an option. She had to confront the horror that followed them. "Mama, what is happening?" Mia's voice trembled, filled with raw innocence that pierced through Sarah's heart. The figures in the clearing unfurled like wisps of smoke, drawing closer. Each face etched with sorrow. And behind them, a deeper, darker void breathed, waiting, watching. What if this wasn't the beginning of their end? What if they were only entering the nightmare, the depths of something far worse than shadows? The air thickened like molasses, pressing against Sarah and Mia as the figures advanced. The faces, ghosts of the lost, spoke without words, their mouths twisted in silent screams. The whispers turned into desperate murmurs, pulling at the edges of Sarah's sanity. "Sorry, help us, lost," their voices intertwined, creating a web of sorrow that crept into her thoughts. "Mia, stay behind me," Sarah urged, her voice barely breaking above the cacophony. Dread clawed at her throat, nearly choking her as fear echoed in her chest. "We can get through this. We must." But Mia's innocent eyes darted, catching sight of a figure that stood apart from the others. While the others lamented silently, this one bore a chilling grin, eyes ablaze with a darkness that sent a cold shudder down Sarah's spine. It took a step forward, melting into the shadows, swirling like smoke. Gleeful, eager, it was hunger wrapped in a pretty bow of charm. "Mama, look!" Mia pointed, wide-eyed. "It's smiling at me, no. Don't look at it." Panic surged. Sarah felt the overwhelming weight of dread. This one was different. This one wanted something. She could see it in the way it leaned closer, its grin widening, exposing teeth that looked sharp enough to tear. "What do you want?" Sarah shouted, trying to suppress the tremor in her voice. "Leave us alone." A laugh echoed back, a hollow, echoing sound that felt like ice sliding through her veins. "Oh, we want so much, dear Sarah. So much more than you can fathom." The creature twisted its fingers together, like a child massaging a favorite toy, delighting in the fear it was sowing. The ground trembled again, and a low rumble filled the air. Wisps of darkness danced around Sarah and Mia, hitching a ride on the energy of their terror. "We're not here to harm you, yet. You have something we need. What could we possibly give you?" The words escaped Sarah before she could reconsider. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage in desperate rhythm. She couldn't let them take Mia. Not ever. But the figure only laughed again, a high, shrill sound that sent her spiraling. "Your light. That's what we crave. The light of love, the hope still burning in your heart. It makes us stronger. Mama. They're coming." Mia's alarm cut through the veil of despair, and Sarah snapped back, focusing on the approaching figures. Each step they took sent waves of dread crashing over her. "Fight them!" Sarah shouted, clenching her fists at her sides. But inside, she was losing her grip. The realization crushed her, their hope was all they had left in the dark maze of fear and shadows. And here it was, being sought by these monsters, but just as despair threatened to spiral out of control, a flicker of the earlier luminous creature pulsed at the edge of Sarah's vision. She could feel it in her bones, the same warmth that had once enveloped them. Perhaps they weren't entirely alone. "Hold my hand, Mia," she shouted, grabbing her daughter tightly. "We'll find our way, we won't lose to them." The moment was raw and palpable. They had to push through the suffocating darkness, through the haunting laughter, and find the light once more. Steeling herself, Sarah propelled herself forward, dragging Mia along. Their feet seemed to ignite with urgency as she shouted, "We won't let you take us." But the shadows didn't recoil. Instead, they surged forward. Faces twisted into snarls, revealing what wouldn't exist in the light, eyes swirling with despair. "You think you can defy us? There is no escape. You will see." Before Sarah could react, the shadow lunged, and in a deadly flicker, Mia was suddenly pulled away, the grasp of darkness toying with her. "Mama!" Mia screamed, her small voice tearing the night open. "No!" Sarah's body surged forward, but the darkness was unrelenting, tendrils reaching, grasping, pulling Mia into its void. The world spun as Sarah dove after her daughter, but the night closed in, shadows swallowing her desperate cries. "I'll find you!" She yelled into the void, its silence thick, heavy, suffocating, but would she? Would she really? When the darkness cleared, all that remained was a chilling whisper in her ear, "Welcome to our world, dear Sarah." Let the real game begin, and just like that, the only warmth faded, leaving Sarah shivering in a void as chilling laughter echoed around her. Where was Mia? What had they done? Anxiety cloaked her thoughts as shadows crowded in, eager and hungry. "Now, all that's left is the question," the shadows finally whispered. "What will you sacrifice to find her?" The forest around Sarah felt alive, breathing with a sinister pulse. The shadows danced with malicious intent, and each flicker of movement sent tremors through her bones. A hollow laughter echoed, swirling around her like a frigid wind. Welcome to your nightmare. Mia. Sarah screamed, her voice raw and desperate. Fear licked at her heart like a flame, the darkness clawing at her sanity. She could feel its cold grip tightening. I will find you. The resolve surged within her, even as uncertainty gnawed at her. Suddenly, from the depths of the shadows, figures began to emerge, lost souls with hollow eyes, their faces twisted in anguish. You can't save her, dear Sarah. You will suffer like the others, they whispered, their voices merging into a haunting symphony of despair. No. She shook her head fiercely, but dread curled around her mind, wrapping her in a suffocating layer of fear. With every breath, the shadows twisted closer, their grasp reaching for her very essence, but within the encroaching darkness, Sarah felt a spark, a flicker of light, a remembrance of love that pulsed deep within her chest. I won't succumb to you. She cried, clenching her fists, summoning every ounce of strength she had left. As she stepped forward, the ground beneath her trembled. Sarah's heart raced as she tapped into that warmth, visualizing Mia's face, her laughter, and that bond they shared. Mia, I'm coming. She shouted, pushing past the nightmarish figures, the shadows recoiling slightly from her light, the whispers transformed into cries of fury, urging her to falter. You belong to us. You cannot resist. No. I choose to fight. Sarah's voice rang out defiantly, gaining traction. She squeezed her eyes shut, focusing on the bond between her and Mia, the beautiful memories wrapped in love. Then came a surge, a brilliant luminous figure erupting through the darkness, illuminating everything around her. Together. It urged, and Sarah felt Mia's presence radiating from within. Hold on to me. Sarah shouted, the light wrapping around them like a shield, drawing strength from their connection. Together, they were an unstoppable force. Just ahead loomed the monstrous shadow, the creature that had flirted with her fears, its eyes narrowing as it cackled with delight. You can't escape this time, it hissed, tendrils reaching for them. What do you want? Sarah demanded, voice strong. You can't have her. The creature's grin widened, a grotesque mockery of innocence. You will pay with your light. The more you struggle, the brighter it burns. No. Sarah yelled defiantly. I will not let you take my daughter. In that moment, a wave of conviction surged through her. They would fight, together, and love would guide them through the darkness. The light pulsated, brighter and brighter, as Sarah and Mia took a step forward, hand in hand. The shadows shrieked, curling back, shriveling in the face of the brilliance they carried within. I love you, Mommy. Mia's voice pierced through the chaos, a beacon of hope. With a scream, the creature lunged, but Sarah held her ground, pushing forward, anchoring herself in their shared bond. We are stronger than you. Together, they leaped into the heart of the light, and everything exploded into a brilliant radiance. The shadows roared in fury, shattering against the brilliance that enveloped them completely. Slowly, the darkness began to fade, the haunting whispers receding into the depths of the forest. As the light dimmed, Sarah found herself standing in a clearing, sunlight pouring through the branches overhead. The shadows now lay dissipated, mere wisps of memory. Breathless, she looked around Mia. Mama. Mia ran into her arms, laughter bursting forth like music. Relief washed over Sarah, warm and comforting. I was so scared. I'm here, baby. I've got you. They embraced fiercely, hearts racing, the sun shining brightly above them. But just as tranquility began to settle over them, an echo hung in the air. You escaped this time, but remember, darkness never forgets, it will return. It was a soft reminder, a warning that sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. We'll always fight, no matter what, she promised, holding Mia close. The woods might have haunted their past, but they had found their way through the darkness together. With newfound strength and hearts entwined, they stepped away from the cursed woods, ready to reclaim their lives, their love forging a path through whatever darkness lay ahead. They would not let fear define them. Hope would be their guiding light, now and forever. Before they took the final step beyond the trees, Sarah paused, glancing back one last time. The woods stood silent and still, the shadows retreating into oblivion. "Let us go home," she whispered, determination pulsing through her veins. Together, they walked hand in hand toward a future filled with promise-free, unburdened, and ready to embrace the light. And remember, if you appreciated this gripping conclusion, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button to boost the algorithm. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories about what just went down. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this intensity. Don't wait one more second, show your support for the channel.